everyone. Nice to see you again, and thank you for that very kind introduction, our President Hong Ci. And that was a lot of stuff happening in this Buddhist society. I'm just amazed. It's kind of, which is good. I guess we have an active Buddhist society, which is marvelous. So, welcome everyone. And as always, we start the night off by doing some meditation together. So just relax, sit comfortably, and we'll get into the meditation. And just start off as always by just relaxing and finding that ease in yourself. We're just flowing along with phenomena, not really rejecting anything or accepting anything, just enjoying and just being at peace with whatever arises, whatever is present at any time. the path of meditation is always a path of just being tolerant and patient, allowing things to be, and just a very simple act of enjoying sitting here, doing nothing at all. That will gradually lead to the world fading away, going into the background, not being important anymore. So allow the peace, allow the calm, allow the beautiful feelings inside to arise gradually and by themselves. And just allow the world to gradually fade away in the background. And if you need a bit of encouragement, remind yourself that the world, there's no solution in the world outside. There's no end to the problems. There's no true goal or anything really worthwhile in that world. What is worthwhile is found in the peace inside, in the inner world, and that is what we're focusing on now. And now, as we are approaching the end of this meditation, just finish off by sending some thoughts of friendliness and kindness to all the wonderful people who are part of this community. Those people who are here today and those people who are not. What a wonderful thing it is that we have such a strong spiritual Buddhist community right here in Perth. May every one of you, may you be happy, may you be well. And now, just before we come to the end, just ask yourself, how do you feel now? And if you do feel a bit more at ease and relaxed, then ask yourself why that is the case. Okay, everyone, that's the end of the meditation, so please sit comfortably again. to wait 5 minutes, so please just chillax and continue meditating or whatever. We'll come back again in 5 minutes. 2 minutes, and now it's only 3, I think, so counting down. start? You sure? Yeah? Okay. Is it okay to start now, or? Kathleen, is it okay to start? Are you ready? Yeah? Okay. Are you ready a long time ago already? I'm ready when you're ready. Okay. Okay, I was told to wait 5 minutes. How does this work? Does it work? Yeah? Okay. But I think we need to have some kind of communication, otherwise it's hard to know, because I'm waiting for you to... I'm waiting for you, yeah. I was told that you were going to give me a sign, so that's what I'm waiting for you. Yeah. Anyway, as always, things are always a bit uncertain. Okay. If I look in the ceiling, you can assume that I'm waiting for something, otherwise... Anyway, this is good for patience, isn't it? It's really extremely good. Maybe we should talk about patience tonight, because this is, I think, the path to patience. Okay, so I guess that we can start. So we have no more excuses now, so fire away with tonight's talk here. So today I'm going to talk about the Buddhist idea of right view. And this is a very important aspect of the Buddhist teachings. I say this every time I come here. I said this is a very important aspect of the teaching. And basically that's true, because every part of the Dhamma, of the path or practice, is necessary for the path to work. So every part can be said to be very important. And right view is no less important than anything else. And in some ways, it could be argued it is kind of the essence of what the Buddhist path is about, because we start off with an idea of right view, and then we end up at the end of the path with right view as well. These are kind of, in a sense, what we are trying to achieve. And right view is really, all it is really, is the idea of seeing reality in the way that the Buddha saw the reality. The Buddhist idea is that we don't see the world as it actually is, and what we're trying to do is to approach and get to that point where we see the world in the same way as the Buddha, in other words, the way the world actually is. And when you think about it, this is incredibly important, right? It's very important to see things the way they actually are. Because if you have a wrong idea about the way the world works, if you think about the world in the wrong way, or you think about your life in the wrong way, or you think about relationships in the wrong way, you think about anything in the wrong way, you're going to make bad decisions as a consequence. Because our decisions require the facts, right? We need to know what's going on. We need to have an idea. It's like, when you want to do something, like plant a plant or something, you need to know how the plants grow. If you don't know how plants grow, you forget to put water, it's not going to work out. The plant died. Why did it die? Because you didn't put water. Is water required? That's called wrong view. If you think no water is required to make the plant grow, it's called wrong view. Well, my other favorite is Ajahn Brahm's idea how to make the plant grow is you help the plant by pulling it a little bit. And if you pull the plant too hard, well, that's also called kind of wrong view, because you have wrong view about how plants actually come to grow. So everything in our life relies on the fact that we see things in the appropriate way. And of course, in the world, it's quite trivial. Okay, you forgot, you think your keys are in your pocket, but actually you forgot your keys somewhere else. That's a kind of wrong view. And it's very unpleasant when it happens. Everyone puts the house keys or the car keys in the wrong place. Is anyone here who has never done that? I remember in the old days when I had a car, I used to misplace my keys. Actually, I wasn't all that bad, but occasionally, of course, I made that mistake. But it's kind of insignificant when it is about the world, because we overcome it, we find those keys again, we remember what we're supposed to be doing, and we're back in business. But on the spiritual path, it's kind of really important, right? If you have wrong view on the spiritual path, you end up not achieving the goal. You stop short. There is a serious problem if we get it wrong on the spiritual path. What if the typical things that we talk about, things like a creator God. Is there a creator God? Well, if there isn't a creator God, and you believe in a creator God, and you kind of expect the creator God to look after you and make sure that you are safe and all of these kind of things, and this creator God, maybe there isn't any creator God, maybe the creator God doesn't care about you, whatever, it's a bit kind of scary, because you are putting your life into the hands of something that may not be there. And that is very problematic. Or the people who say that when you come to the end of your life, then everything just stops. And that can be a very reassuring thing, that when you come to the end of your life, then everything stops. But what if it doesn't stop? What if it carries on? I remember there was a monk we had at Bodhinyana Monastery a while ago, and he said that he went to his auntie, and he said to his auntie, his auntie was getting old. She wasn't going to die reasonably soon, I suppose. And he said to her, well, when you die, you just get reborn. And she said, oh no, I don't want to get reborn. My life has been pretty bad. She had one of these people had a very difficult life. And I think she was living in Europe. This was during the Second World War, and it was really a lot of hardship, and maybe she didn't have very good parents, and I don't know what, but she had a really rough life. And she said, no, I don't want to be reborn. I've had enough of this. But then you come to the end, and it carries on. So this is the point of having right view. If we have a right view, we can make good decisions about how to live. We can have a right intention, as a consequence. Right intention, samma sankappa in Pali language, means right purpose, a right goal, a right aim. We're heading in the right direction. This is the idea of the Buddhist path. If you haven't got right view, you cannot have the right aim. You cannot have the right purpose. So right view leads to right aim. And when you have right aim, then the whole path kind of takes off by itself, because you're heading in the right direction, because the right view, which is the source of everything else, leads you. It gives you like a boost, It kind of gives you that kind of rocket power, and kind of moves you forward on the path as a consequence. And in some ways, you could say that really all you require is right view. If you have a lot of right view, if you strengthen right view, everything else just happens as a consequence. You just get motivated in the right way. Just like you get motivated, I don't know what motivates you, probably a lot of different things, but in the morning you're hungry, you're motivated to have breakfast. No one needs to tell you to have breakfast, or if you don't like breakfast, then lunch, or at least dinner, whatever it is. Or you don't need to be motivated to look at your favorite entertainment. You just do it because the motivation is already there. So with the right view, we get a similar kind of motivation on the spiritual path. Wouldn't that be nice to be motivated on the spiritual path as powerfully as we are motivated to do the things in ordinary life? What are the things that drive you in life? Think about some of the things that really make you, that relationship, or whatever it is that you are really kind of keen on in life. That drives you onwards. In the same way, if we can have right view on the Buddhist path, we will be driven on in the Buddhist practice in the same way as we're driven to do things in our ordinary life. Very powerful. So as you keep on purifying that right view, becoming more and more clear, that superpower, that rocket fuel, at the base of the Buddhist path, carries you forward, brings the path into existence, one factor after the other, building up until you come to the very end of the path. So extraordinarily useful to understand the idea of right view. So what exactly is right view? Now, one way of thinking about right view, which I think is very powerful, is that right view is really about understanding the distinction between happiness and suffering. Pretty useful, right, to understand the difference? Of course, you think you know already, right? You think you know already the difference between happiness and suffering. Unfortunately, you don't. I've got bad news for you. You don't know that, and that's why you still have suffering in your life. The people who are fully enlightened, they don't have that suffering, right? So you don't understand it yet. That's the part of the problem. But this is kind of the base idea in Buddhism about what right view is about. It's about understanding where to find happiness and where you find suffering here. And the idea then is to gradually purify that right view. One of the important things about right view is that it's something that evolves. It is something that you have to practice with. It's something that you actually have to put in an effort to acquire that right view. You have to reflect, you have to Try to understand the teachings of the Buddha. Try to align your view with those teachings of the Buddha. That effort is actually required to have right view. It is not something that just comes to you. Oh yeah, now I got right view. Okay, bang, practice. It's actually it's a gradual thing that builds up over time. You see the world more clearly, and that is how it kind of comes about. This is what right view is. So your understanding of happiness and suffering, which I say is the root of right view, it gradually builds up. Gradually you get clarity about where suffering is to be found, where happiness is to be found. And then gradually it then redirects you. Your aim becomes slightly different. You're pointing towards a different purpose and goal in your life as a consequence. The way that we often talk about right view in Buddhism, and these are very important ways. There are things like believe in rebirth, that's the right view. Believe in karma. Karma is the idea that action has effects or results. These are kind of the root ideas of right view, and these are very, very important. And I will show you maybe hopefully later on during this talk exactly how they work, why these are so important. But the problem with the idea of rebirth and karma is that very often it's a bit kind of theoretical for us. Okay, maybe you believe in rebirth, maybe you think, there's probably rebirth, but it doesn't really have that powerful impact on you. It's not visceral. It is not emotional. It doesn't have this impact. There's a rebirth. Jeepers, that's really scary. Right now, I got to be nice. Right? It doesn't really work like that. Is that true? You don't kind of think, rebirth. Jeepers, I could better right now. I'm going to give my friend a hug and give a gift to somebody and just do all the right things. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't have that kind of visceral, powerful, emotional thing that drives you on. It is emotions that drives us in life. It is emotions that make the Noble Eightfold Path work. Because emotions are almost the driving force in everything that we do. The intellect is like on the top of that and it's kind of useful, but emotions are ultimately the things that drive us. When we are inspired, that's when we do things. And inspiration is a kind of emotion that we have. So right view needs to be more than just saying, rebirth, karma, because it is not really powerful enough to give us inspiration. So how can we make this right view more real, more tangible, something that we can use right here and now, something that actually does propel us? To show you how this works, I will talk about, I mentioned before how right view leads to right intention. This is the Noble Eightfold Path. Noble Eightfold Path has how many factors? 8 factors, right? Just testing you, see if you're awake. Noble Eightfold Path has 8 factors, not 7, not 6, not 9 or whatever. I like to be a bit naughty. I'm a disciple of Ajahn Brahmali, right? So we are kind of taught to be naughty. It's one of the basic educations in Adinnadana monastery, how to be a little bit naughty here. So we do that on purpose. So Noble Eightfold Path has 8 factors. The first one is right view, samma ditti. The second one is samma sankappa, right intention, and then you have the remainder coming after that. And so how the connection between right view and right intention is very interesting. In the suttas, right intention is normally given as threefold, 3 kinds of right intention. Those 3 are, they're called in Pali, they're called avyapada sankappa, which means the intention of, you can say, kindness, metta, friendliness, loving kindness, these kind of things. There's the avihingsa sankappa. I always say that I say a few Pali words because it gives me more authority, because you think, wow, this guy, he really knows what he's talking about. So that's kind of one of the reasons I do that. So avihingsa vitaka means the thought, the intention of non-harming, non-cruelty, again, it's actually really about compassion, So compassion, you have kindness, compassion, and the last one is called the nekama sankappa, which means the intention of renunciation. And I'll talk about a little bit about that later on. So it leads to these 3 things, compassion, kindness, and renunciation. That's what right view leads to. How does right view lead to these 3 things? And so I will start by talking a little bit about how right view leads to compassion. I think this is quite an easy one to understand. But I will start by talking a little bit about how to deal with things like the war in Ukraine. How does thinking about that war in the right way lead to compassion? It's very easy to get angry. It's easy to get fearful. It is easy to think, oh, the world is going down the drain. Maybe the world is going down the drain. I don't know. It's possible. But you can still have compassion, yeah? Actually, even better reason to have compassion if the world is going down the drain, actually. So one of the things that I found very interesting, I was reading some articles about what happened to ordinary people in Ukraine, what they thought about the war. And there was this, I think there was two ladies, I can't remember, maybe there were two, maybe there was a man or a lady, I think the gender is kind of insignificant. But there was two people, and they were interviewed, and they had a very opposite reactions to what was happening with the war. And the first lady, man, whatever, who was interviewed, he or she said that this is terrible. My future has been destroyed. Yeah, look at the bombs. Everything has been leveled to the ground, razed to the ground. There's nothing left standing. My house is gone. My family members have been killed. My village is wiped out. It's terrible. They have destroyed my future. And she was really angry and really upset about the fact that here come these invaders, and kind of just raze and destroy your life, and my future has been destroyed. And when I read that, I thought, first of all, yeah, you have a point. Yeah, there's some truth to this. There's a very good reason for being upset. Yeah, when someone just comes and destroys everything in your life and leaves nothing behind. But then I thought a bit deeper, and I realized actually she's not quite right. Yeah, of course, some of your future is destroyed. It will impact your future in a certain way, when everything around you is razed to the ground. But it's not really the Buddhist way of thinking about how the future unfolds. The future is just so uncertain. One of the most powerful sayings of, one of the wonderful sayings of Ajahn Brahm, many wonderful sayings, one of the things I really like, first of all, remember when you listen to Ajahn Brahm's stories, don't just laugh and kind of walk out kind of lightheaded. Think about them. Yeah, they're very powerful stories, many of those Ajahn Brahm stories. One of his great stories is the one about good, bad, who knows? Yeah, do you know that one? Yeah, okay, one person at least. Yeah. Good, bad, who knows? It's a beautiful story because it shows you that we don't know the outcome of things. We don't know where things are going to lead. Yeah, what is actually going to be the ultimate, whether it's going to be for good or for bad. And so even though you have all of these things happening in Ukraine, well, okay, so maybe everything is razed to the ground. So what happens? You become a refugee, maybe you move to another country, you find another boyfriend somewhere, and suddenly your life just takes a completely different direction. It's very, very hard to know whether ultimately it's going to be good or bad. Maybe all that suffering leads you to become more compassionate later on. Maybe it makes you a better person. It's very difficult to know sometimes the long-term effects of what is happening here. So this is one aspect, right? But the other aspect, which I think is much more important than that, and that is the idea that our future is not made by what happens in the world around us. The world around us is out of control. We don't know what's going to happen in the world around us. We don't know when the people we love the most are going to die or get sick or injure themselves or whatever. We don't know if climate change is going to be a massive disaster or not so much of a disaster. We don't know when the next COVID pandemic is going to come. We don't know when the next natural disaster is going to bring a tsunami. Next time maybe wipe out Perth rather than wipe out northern Sumatra or whatever. All of these things are so uncertain. Yeah, if we rely on the world outside for our future, for building our future, we are relying on a house of cards. It is so unstable, so uncertain, and it's madness to rely on that world. And this is why people grieve so much, and they get so upset because they are so dependent on the world outside to work out, when we know that the world outside cannot really work out. So this is kind of where you start to think, so what is our future then? And what our future is, the way that you build up our future, is actually not through fixing up the world outside. Maybe it can be fixed, maybe not. Usually it kind of just goes on, kind of a bit up and down, and it kind of bumps along in a kind of dodgy way. That's usually what happens with the world. It's kind of neither here nor there. But if you really want to make a good future for yourself, of course, what you have to focus on is who you are as a person. You have to focus on your personal qualities. You have to live well. You have to live with kindness and compassion, understanding and metta and peace and all of these beautiful qualities. And when you live with that, then you are securing a good future for yourself, regardless of what happens in the world. The world may still be painful to some extent, because we are enmeshed in this world. It's impossible that the world should not be painful to some extent, but you're building up a refuge within yourself, an island within yourself, where you can go in at any time, close your eyes, watch your breath, let go of the world. The world is so problematic, don't have anything to do with it. And when you go inside, you have that refuge, because you have built up spiritual qualities over a long time. That is how you build up a good future for yourself. It is true within this life, but it's even more true from one life to the next one. Because your next life really, really depends on how you live now. If you lift up your life, change your game to the better in this life, it will powerfully affect how you live your next life. But it also affects your ability to deal with things in this life. So this is where the idea of rebirth comes in. You can see I snuck the idea of rebirth in there, right? I said it wasn't so important in the beginning, but actually, when you think about life in this way, actually, it is really, really important. But you look at it from a different angle. You look at it from the angle of creating a better future in general. And then, of course, the idea of rebirth comes into that. Also the idea of karma, by the way. So this is how you create a good, better life for yourself, And that's such a incredibly good news when you think about it. We often talk about Buddhism being so pessimistic, so much dukkha everywhere, there's wars going on, no one really doing the right thing, dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. But there is a purpose to focusing on that dukkha, of understanding. Dukkha means suffering, or pain, because it helps us to readjust and understand things in the right way, so we can look for happiness where it really is to be found, where your future is made. So what does that mean in the case of Ukraine? And this was where this other interview came in. The other interview was another lady, man, I think it was a lady anyway, and she was asked, well, how are you dealing with this war in Ukraine? And she said, it's like magic. Here we are. We have all this kind of bombs coming down. We have the soldiers coming into our country. But actually, we feel better than ever before. It's like we have come together. We're having compassion for each other. We're looking out for each other. We are more caring than we have been before. Suddenly, we are kind of coming together in harmony, working together in the way that we haven't done before. It's the paradox of suffering, the paradox of having kind of an external enemy, brings everyone together. And so what she was describing is the arising of compassion, the arising of kindness out of understanding that the world is a troubled place. If the world outside is no longer working, if all the things that you used to take for granted to give you pleasure, your relationships, the entertainment you had, your house, whatever, if that isn't working anymore, you look almost automatically. I don't think she did this in a kind of very conscious way. It was almost like an automatic reaction. You go within and you look for that happiness somewhere else, in the spiritual qualities, in the community, in human relationships of kindness and care and these kind of things. And she said, I'm more happy now than I was before the war. I think she felt guilty about saying that, right? Because it's kind of strange. I can't say that. Can I say that? It's kind of almost like you are undermining other people's suffering when you say that. You kind of feel almost, maybe I'm not supposed to say these things. But we have to talk the truth, right? If we don't talk about the truth, then we're going to be led even further astray. And this is kind of the fascinating things. And it shows you it shows you many things, but one of the things it shows you is that if you really want to be happy in life, the spiritual qualities are more important than the worldly qualities that we have. Whatever we have in the world is small compared to the inner spiritual qualities. These bring far more happiness and satisfaction and contentment in our life than the external things. So that's why it is kind of crazy, because when we look at the world, everyone is chasing after the external things. Why are we chasing after all these external things when happiness is to be found somewhere else? And this is what I mean by right view. Yeah? Understanding happiness and suffering, where to find one, where to find the other. This is exactly what it is. And so you start to change, and you start to understand things in a new way. The spiritual path, by spiritual path I mean mental development, developing our good qualities of heart. That is where it really is at. The world outside is never, ever going to be satisfactory, and it's going to let you down. There's going to be happiness in that world, but ultimately it will let you down. This is the problem. So she understood this. And because she understood this, she was practicing compassion. She was helping her friends, and they were kind of working together in a good way. And she didn't say anything about how she felt about the Russian soldiers. She didn't say that she hated them or anything like that, which was great. Because the next step, of course, once you understand that, is that you have to understand that you have to expand that compassion. The compassion should not be just for your friends and mates and that sort of thing. It should be also for even those Russian soldiers who are coming into your country and destroying things. You should have compassion for them too. How is that possible? And of course the way it is possible is to understand that most of those soldiers probably don't want to kill, they don't want to destroy anything, but they are kind of trapped in a structure, trapped within a military regime that shows a very stupid job by becoming a soldier. Don't choose to become a soldier, because you're going to be trapped in the same way. And because of that, because they have fallen into that job for whatever reason, they are now trapped by the circumstances, and they don't have any choice. Yes, you see these poor, usually young men, right? They have no idea what they're doing. Anybody that's 19 or 20 years old, they kind of, they're just still completely lacking in worldly wisdom. Remember when I was 19, I was completely clueless. Now I'm still clueless, but I was much more clueless then. So it's kind of worrisome sometimes, you think back. And so you have compassion for them, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't really want to do this. Who wants to kill other people? It's kind of crazy to kill other people. Just the thought of killing another person is it's just really kind of scary, and very unpleasant, just the idea of that. So you have compassion for those Russian soldiers. And then you go up the hierarchy. It gets more and more difficult the kind of higher up the hierarchy you go. You think about the commanders of the army. You think about the generals at the very top. And ultimately you think about Vladimir Putin, who's kind of running the whole show. Well, that's what they say anyway. Of course, he isn't really running the show. He is also trapped in circumstances. He's also trapped in his own blindness and darkness, not understanding where happiness is to be found. And ultimately, you kind of see this whole thing just as a tragedy. We're all involved in this tragedy, everyone making mistakes, no one really understanding what is going on. And then you can start to have compassion for everyone involved as you do this. Compassion coming out of the idea of right view, understanding that we're all suffering together. The world is made in this way. The world cannot be otherwise. Because in the world where there is competition for resources, competition for kind of being nationalistic, my nation is better than yours, and all of these kind of things, there's always going to be conflict, there's going to be war, there's going to be disasters of this kind. This is the nature of our world. And because it is the nature of our world, the only right response is to have compassion. We cannot escape these things. We're all trapped in this thing together. Then you have right view. You have an understanding of the first noble truth of suffering that the Buddha talks about. This is what he meant. There is no escape from this. This is really what he's saying. And of course, often we think, we are building up societies and we're trying to make precautions and trying to kind of reduce war. And If you look at human history, there isn't much evidence that we have been successful. Yeah, the worst wars in human history were in the 20th century. It's kind of just behind us. And of course, the answer is it cannot really be done. And that is why we have this problem. So this is how it works out. And one of the things that kind of became clear to me when I was looking at this is that it became clear that we often fear the wrong things. And we don't fear the things that we should fear. Yeah, we fear the problems in the world. We fear that things are going to go wrong. Well, actually, they are going to go wrong. No point in having a fear. We know it's going to go wrong already. Yeah, so at some point, something will go wrong. That's just the nature of things. So we fear the world going wrong. But the fear is pointless, because actually, it is going to go wrong. But what we really should fear, because that really is something we can do something about, and that is the thing which really determines our future. We should fear bad conduct in ourselves. That is what we should be afraid of, because that really determines the outlook for ourselves in the long run. So if you should fear something, it is your own conduct. Usually we don't fear that, We don't fear what we should be fearing, and we fear what we shouldn't be fearing. This is kind of a problem of humanity. So change your fear, have a different kind of fear. Actually, don't even fear. It's no point in fearing your wrong conduct, but be really alert about it, because this is really what we need to do to change our future. So that is just a little bit about compassion, and how compassion emerges out of right view. And if you think about the world in this way, there's no real need to get depressed about it, because what we're doing is we're just changing the direction of how we live, and we're kind of creating happiness in a place where happiness can be created. So this is how you then move, from one to the other one. So then that is the first one. Then we have the idea of right view, bringing about metta, bringing about loving kindness and friendliness in the world. I'm going to talk about that just very, very briefly. And the idea here is simply that when you understand the Buddhist ideas and you know that if you don't have metta, if you're angry, if you are upset with people, all of these kind of things, you are just sullying your mind. You're dirtying yourself in a sense, And you know that all of these bad qualities in your mind, they are going to lead eventually to saying the wrong thing, acting in the wrong way, and all of these kind of things. And it feels dirty, When you're angry, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel pure. So you start to understand that actually I need to be pure, because these dirty things, they lead in the opposite way of the Noble Eightfold Path. I need to purify myself, not to kind of fill myself up with junk and rubbish. It's rubbish, all of these bad thoughts I have about other people. And once you start to understand that, then of course you chuck out the rubbish. Just like you don't want to have rubbish in your house lying around, why accept the rubbish in your mind? And so this comes out of the idea that we want to purify ourselves because we don't want to act in bad ways. And the Buddha has a beautiful simile for this. Buddha has so many marvelous similes. I can really recommend you to read the similes of the Buddha. They are just the best. And if you read, actually there was a book that has only the similes of the Buddha. There's only one downside. It's in German. So I don't know if you read German. If you do, then you can check out that book. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. But this is worthwhile reading the suttas just for all the beautiful similes. And this particular simile is the simile of the monk who has a rag robe. I teach this simile all the time. You may have heard it before. It's a really nice simile. It's this monk who has a rag robe, not a nice robe like this, but full of rags everywhere. And then he travels along, and of course, if you are a rag robe wearing monk, you're always looking out for rags, because you want to, when the patch you have now is kind of getting thin and worn, you want to put another rag on top of the existing patches. So you're always on the lookout for rags. Kind of wondering, rags, can I see any rags here? And then as you're walking along the road, occasionally you see a rag along the road. This is the simile by the Buddha. So you come to this rag on the roadside. What do? You spread it out. You hold it down with one foot, you spread it out with the other foot, and then you look at the rag. and then you tear off the section which is intact, take that with you, and the section which is not intact, which is rotten and bad and useless, you chuck it out. When the Buddha says, this is what we do with our mental life, with our mental thoughts, how we think about other people. You take the person, you kind of spread the person out. This means like you're seeing all the qualities in the person. The bad qualities are over here, the good qualities are over there. You tear it off just down the line where all the bad qualities are. You crumble up the bad qualities, you chuck them out of your mind because it's rubbish. It's bad. It leads to bad consequences. This is what we do. And then we take the good qualities into our heart and we carry them with us into the future. So we can bring them out when we need to be reminded of the good qualities of this person. It's a beautiful simile. Remember that the thoughts in your mind, they are rubbish. The bad thoughts when you think about other people in a bad way or whatever that might be, it is no good. It is useless. It destroys the spiritual path. And that's why we need to get rid of it. So this understanding, it's a very important topic, the idea how to purify our minds. I just very briefly talk about it now because it's not really the main emphasis of this particular talk. That is the idea of how metta, kindness, friendliness comes out, a right view, because we understand that the idea of purifying ourselves, being deeply kind in a deep way, not just a superficial way, but deep within, is really what this path is about. And then there's the third kind of right intention. And this is the intention of renunciation. This kind of often sounds very scary to people because you think, if I renounce, I might end up like this widow sitting on the stage over there. Oh, you're not talking about me, are you not? Right? It's kind of like, I might become a monk if I renounce too much. That's kind of scary. But don't think about it like that. Think about the idea of renunciation as a gradual letting go of attachment. It's kind of obvious that if we are too attached to things in the world, we have a lot of suffering. If you are really, really attached to something you own and then you lose it, wow, it is so painful. If you are super duper attached to your husband or wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is, and then they leave you, the pain is so enormous. So attachment, by definition, is problematic. If you can reduce the attachments a little bit and just live well and be kind, it is always incredibly beneficial. That's what one of the aspects of renunciation is, actually a gradual reduction of the attachment. In a sense, we are not holding on to the world so powerfully anymore. And that not holding on is really an act of renunciation. So how can we do this? I'm going to give you one idea how to do this. This is kind of how, again, right view leads to right intention of renouncing a little bit. And one of the similes, coming back to the similes of the Buddha again, one of the wonderful similes that you find in the suttas, in his word, is the idea of the dream. The sensory world, he says, is like a dream. And I thought to myself, when I read that, I thought, I sort of understand what that means. When the sensory world is like a dream, it means that you are thinking about the future. When I kind of, when I was at university, I think, when I kind of, get finished with my studies or whatever, I'm going to get married in this way, live in that way, have a house like this, have a career like that. Kind of had this idea about the future. What kind of car you're going to get, all of these kind of things. And anyway, you can see what a waste of time that was, obviously. But this was kind of the idea, And then I realized that very often the way we think about things, the way we think about relationships, for example, is this idealized way of relationships, rose-tinted relationships, Relationships are never like the way they are in our dreams. Relationships are often much more mundane. Yeah, okay, you have to do the dishwashing together. Oh, okay, we do the dishwashing together. You have sometimes you have arguments maybe because you can't agree on something or you can't decide or whatever it is. There is a downside to relationships. It is not as beautiful as it is in the dream. In the dream, everything is wonderful and marvelous and rose-tinted and excellent, and you're just the best of friends and all these kind of things. The same thing with everything else in life that we are pursuing. The career never turns out the way you think it's going to be. You have this beautiful idea of the career you're going to have. Actually, it's not that great at all. Yeah, you're just stressing out and you're getting exploited by your employer or whatever. Well, okay, whatever. Or the house you're going to have, it actually turns out to be much more work than you thought. There's so much work with this house. It's falling apart. I've got to clean it all the time. Wow, so much work. Yeah. So this is what I thought was the idea of the dream. And of course, there's a lot of truth to that. Yeah, life is not actually the way we dream about life. But then I was reading a sutta where the Buddha was saying, give another angle on this idea of the dream. And he was saying that it's like, life is a bit like a dream. Yeah, when you wake up in the morning, it is no longer there. In the same way, one day your people who are dearest to you will be gone, and all that is left is the name. Yeah, and it's a bit like a dream. Yeah, they are gone. All they have left is the name. So one way of thinking about the dream is to kind of look into the future and understand that actually it is going to be different from what I think it is. Another way is looking into the past and realize that actually all those things that I used to be attached to, they're gone. They're like a dream. They're not really reality. And this is kind of very powerful. Sometimes I go back to places I lived when I was young. It's a long time ago now, but and I will go back to. I'm born in Norway, right? I got a Norwegian and Australian citizenship now. I actually lived longer in Australia than I lived in Norway, which is kind of strange when you think about it, especially with all this accent I still have. It's kind of, how did this guy, how is that possible after all those years? But that's how it is often when you come into a new country, when you're already grown up. But when I go back to Norway, I go back to some of those places I used to live 40 years ago, or more than 40 years ago. And I go there and I kind of remember the house I was living in. I go look at the house, I thought, jeepers, when I lived here in this house, in that room, I was really attached to this. This was my childhood, this was my room. It was very important to me when I was there. And now I feel nothing. It feels alien, it feels weird, it feels like a different lifetime. It feels like it has nothing to do with me. I meet some of the people who were my best friends at that time, and I think, I can't relate to this person anymore. Was this really my best friend? Hello, best friend, goodbye. Something has happened. I don't think it's not working out anymore. It's not the same. And it's like, you wonder, how could I have been so attached to things and then later on, suddenly it is all gone. It has become like a dream. It was a dream all along. It wasn't really real. There was nothing there to really hold on to or to grasp onto. It was actually very empty from the very beginning. And then I think about now, and I think, what am I attached to now? I don't know. As a monk, you're not supposed to be attached to things, right? So what am I attached to? This is going to be maybe a bit of too revealing to kind of say things I'm attached to in this life, but attached to my robes probably, or I'm attached to my kuti actually. My kuti is my hut in the forest. I have to admit I'm attached to my kuti. Don't touch my kuti. It's my kuti. Actually, it's not my kuti at all. The kuti actually belongs to the Buddhist society, right? The Buddhist society is the owner of my kuti. If our President Hong Ci says, give us back the kuti, I have to say, yes, sir, and I have to give back the kuti. I don't think he will do that, but that is possible. And but I know that in 10 or 20 years' time, I will look back and I think, why was I attached to the Buddhist society here? Yeah, why was I attached to this kuti here? One day, Ajahn Brahm will be gone, and he too will be like a dream. Why was I attached to Ajahn Brahm? Yeah, or actually, maybe I won't never think that, because maybe I think, that was a good idea to be attached to Ajahn Brahm, actually, because that sort of drove me in the right direction. But I would, in the future, if you think about your own life, 20 years from now, and you look back to the things you had now, you wonder, why on earth was I attached to these things? And you start to see the hollowness of what you have now. Yeah, your family will maybe be gone. And this becomes even more powerful when you start to look into multiple lives. Yeah, think about your past life. In your past life, guaranteed, you were attached to a large number of things as well. You had a husband or wife, you had a boyfriend or girlfriend, you had maybe children, you had parents, you had a larger family, you had a house that you lived in. Maybe you didn't have a car, maybe you had a horse and chariot instead in those days. I don't know, things change. Maybe you didn't have a computer, maybe you had an abacus instead of a computer. You were really attached to that abacus because you did your calculations. You were an accountant in ancient China maybe, and you had an abacus to do your accounting here. Whatever it is, you were attached, guaranteed, you were attached to a number of things. But now, think about those attachments and you have your past life. And it kind of seems, why was I attached? It's completely irrelevant what happened in my past life. Who cares? And you start to wonder what that attachment really was about. It was empty. It was pointless. There was nothing really there. And now you go to your future life. And in your future life, you think back to this life. And you think, why was I attached to these things in this life? Now it's all gone. All those family members, all those jobs, all that Buddhist society, all that things that I thought were so important, it's all disappeared. Now I have a new existence. I'm attached to new things. Because we don't learn, we just keep on attaching. And when you look at the idea of attachments in this way, it starts to seem so hollow, so empty, so lacking in substance. There's nothing there to grasp onto because it's always changing, always moving on. Yeah? And by doing this, by thinking in this way, you start to loosen your grip a little bit because you know there is nothing in this world that you can really hold on to. Here's a beautiful way of thinking about life. And when you loosen that grip a little bit, when you don't hold on so much to things in this life, it allows your mind to become more peaceful in your meditation because you're less interested in this world. The world no longer doesn't hold that same sway over you as it used to. So it's a very beautiful and very powerful way of thinking here. There's another beautiful sutta which I could talk about. I did talk about that very briefly last time when I was here. And this is a sutta where the Buddha talks a little bit about his own life before his awakening. And he says very powerfully, when I looked at the world, I saw conflict everywhere. I saw people floundering like fish in a small puddle. And this is our world. It's conflict everywhere. And if there is a peace for a short time like there is in Perth, well, there's always small conflicts going on within Perth, right? In households, in communities, and everywhere. It is never completely placid and calm. And when the Buddha to be saw this, he said, I got scared. Yeah, this is kind of the Buddha to be, the supreme spiritual teacher in recorded human history, at least as far as I'm concerned. And he got scared, and he also decided, I'm going to leave the world on that basis. Again, he realized this is inherent in that world. That world is inherently troublesome. Always changing, always moving, always problems re-arising. One of the nice little catchphrases that I like to describe the situation of this impermanence, the quivering and shaking of things, never being stable, always moving. The nice catchphrase is, expect the unexpected. Expect the unexpected. And you might say, that's an oxymoron. Makes no sense. How can you expect the unexpected? That's impossible. You're talking nonsense. Actually, no, the point is that, of course, we cannot expect individual unexpected events. That's impossible. But you can have a general idea of expecting the unexpected. So when something unexpected happens, you can say, oh yeah, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I knew something was going to happen. And then already you are kind on the right track. And when you remember the world is like this, the world is an expectation of the unexpected. When you remember this, it starts to become very, very kind of not so interesting anymore. When you understand that all your attachments will always be this kind of nature will take them back, and you won't be able to be attached anymore. The more you understand this, the more your grip again loosens on the world. The Buddha became a monk, he became enlightened, which is really powerful. But even if you just loosen your grip a little bit, even if you just let go a little bit of those things in the world, it will make you a better person, more peaceful. It will enhance your meditation. So these three things arising from right view, this is how to think about right view, And this is really powerful. If you get into these ideas, if you allow yourself to understand these things in a deep way, they will grab your heart. They will have an emotional impact. It will drive you forward. It will be visceral. It will be, wow, this really feels like something. Then, guarantee you, the path will take off. You will start to become super duper kind. Because it's like life and death almost, And it's not that you are scared, but you understand through mindfulness the power of these things. And it kind of drives you forward when you understand these things properly. And you build up these three things, the right intention. The karuna sankappa, the intention of compassion. The intention of kindness, the metta sankappa, you can maybe call it. And last one, the nekama sankappa, the intention of renunciation, of giving up this world a little bit. And when these three things come together, they are very, very powerful. Because the idea of detaching a little bit, of renouncing a little bit, needs to be balanced with the happiness within. The happiness within comes from the kindness and the care that we show to the world around us. If you're a very kind and caring person, I guarantee you're going to feel very good about yourself. You will have a source of happiness within, and that will sustain you when you renounce a little bit. And when these things come together in your ordinary life, but especially in your meditation practice, very, very powerful. You renounce, you give up the attachment. At the same time, you feel the happiness within that allows you to deepen the meditation even more. These two things together are basically what meditation is about. Happiness more and more, stillness and peace more and more. These two things building up, eventually lead you to the deepest kind of meditation that is possible to achieve on the Buddhist path. And this then, you make this path work. It becomes very powerful and very, very useful. And the main thing, very beginning, develop that right view. Understand what it really is all about. Okay, everyone, I've spoken enough. And so that's it for tonight. So do you have any questions, comments, complaints, arguments, refutals? No, whatever it's called. So, does anyone here have any questions before we go to the questions outside?
Ajahn?
Yes, please.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Your talk today is just like a wake-up call for me. It's like last year during COVID, I lost my brother, and it happened so fast.
Yeah.
I thought I would be having my brother for a long time, and suddenly from Malaysia, my sister called, said he has gone to the hospital, and within 2 days he passed away.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, it's
yeah.
permanent.
It's very interesting, isn't it? This is a very, very common experience. People say, "Oh, it happened so fast." Suddenly he's dead. My mother said that when my father died. My father died 3 years ago now, and she said the same thing. "Oh, it happened so fast. It wasn't supposed to happen so fast." Well, actually, there is no "was supposed to." It doesn't work like that. It happens now. Is the time to make sure that you're ready for people to die, and it makes you kind. If I know that this is the last time I may see all of you here tonight, how would I want to interact with you with kindness? If this is the last time I'm going to see you, Hóng, I don't want to leave you in a bad way and say some nasty thing to you. I want to be kind, right? So the idea of the reminder of impermanence is actually a very powerful tool for kind of awakening kindness and all those good qualities within us. All right, anyone else want to say anything here? Everyone is okay? Yeah? Okay, marvelous. So let's have a quick look at the questions from outside. We have a question from Indonesia. Jeepers, these are really profound questions. This is okay. The first one is not really about anything we talked about tonight, but never mind. I'll see if I can answer it briefly. This is about the cessation of perception and feeling. So this is like the highest kind of meditative attainment you can have on the Buddhist path. Sometimes the Buddha mentions only 8 jhanas. Sometimes the Buddha includes the 9th state. Why is that? Sometimes the Buddha mentioned only 4 jhanas. In fact, there is only 4 jhanas. The other 4 are called immaterial attainments. They're not called jhanas at all. And then there is the cessation of perception and feeling. The idea is just that you can go deeper and deeper, and the deeper you go, you can end up. You don't have to go all the way to these 9 states. 4 jhanas is sufficient, but some people who have very skilled in meditation, they go even deeper in the meditation. That's why you have these 9 states. And some people, if you go all the way to the cessation of perception and feeling, then you're pretty much enlightened when you come out. Not fully enlightened necessarily, but very close, because you have seen the full cessation of everything here. This is one reason why it's there, because it leads to very profound insights. We have a question from Germany. Hello, Germany. On what truths and principles should I be strong and live according to if I plan to live my whole life without a partner? What truths and principles should I be strong and live according to? If you want to live your life without a partner, then you have to see the benefits of living a life like that. This is a kind of renunciation, to live by yourself. You're living almost like a monastic, I suppose, if you live in that way. So you have to kind of turn your life a little bit away from the world of partnerships. Remember the downside of partnerships. One of the kind of great sayings is that, very often people get into a partnership, a marriage or whatever, and it just isn't that great, it isn't that successful. And sometimes people have a lot of trauma in relationships. And of course, then it is really bad. On the other hand, occasionally people have really good relationships, really kind of positive, where they really care for each other and these kind of things. And then often you get really attached. And when the other person dies, it's actually terrible as well. So there is always a downside. The idea of being independent, being sufficient with yourself is actually very powerful. It means you have more ability to navigate your world. You become more independent of everything around you. It makes you stronger in a certain way, less susceptible to the sufferings of the world. And this is the beautiful thing about living a single life. So remember the downside. Remember that usually the life with a partner is not as marvelous as we think it is. People tend to think it is anyway. It often has a lot of problems to it. And then remember the benefits of single life. The benefits are that you can practice more peacefully on your own, more ability for solitude. You can become a monk or a nun. I'm not sure whether you are male or female, you didn't say, but you can become a monk or a nun. You have that ability. If once you are in a partnership, the chances are much less of becoming a monk or nun. It's much more difficult because then you have an obligation to someone else. That is a wonderful thing to have that opportunity. I don't know, to me, monastic life is the best. And why? Well, because it is spiritual through and through, and this is what is so beautiful about it. So these are the kind of thoughts you may want to think about and read some suttas. One of my favorite suttas on the dangers of the sensory world is found in the middle-length sayings of the Buddha, number 54, called the Potalya Sutta. It's a beautiful sutta with similes and all kind of things about the dangers of the sensory world. Anyway, so that is a starting point. We have another question from Indonesia. What is mindfulness in depth? How do we comprehend it? I heard about wherever your body go, you are always here. How do we get to understand living in the present? Living in the present just means that it's quite simple, really, mindfulness. Once you are mindful, it's a very natural state. You're just here. You're present. You are aware of what's going on around you. What is the opposite of mindfulness? The opposite of mindfulness is when you fantasize about the future, or you hang out in the past. You're like, oh yeah, the past was so good. Yeah, you kind of go through your photo albums of the past. You think, oh yeah, look, we were all smiling in those days. We were so happy. Yeah, wow, look at that. Of course, the photo albums are just lying to you. It was nothing like that. Yeah, the photos are the best possible picture. Okay, everyone's smiling and take a picture. And then we're going to put in a photo album, and we're going to pretend that that was actually the way it was. It wasn't like that at all. Yeah. We know that these are lies, how we think about the past. So forget about the past. Forget about the future. Now is when your future is made. Remember this idea about the world outside. We don't find a good future by controlling the world outside. The world outside is out of control. It's irredeemable. You cannot control the world outside. It is always going to let you down. The place, the only thing we can control and do something about is our own conduct. That is where we make the good future. And how do we make the good conduct? Well, it's about how you act now. Now is when that conduct happens. You close your eyes, you meditate now in the present, not in the future, in the past. And by being peaceful in the present, you're making good karma. You become more kind to other people because you're more peaceful and all of these things. People think that meditation is a selfish practice. Not at all. Meditation is a service to society around us because it makes us better people if we do it in the right way. So this is how you do it. You know that I want to be in the present so I can react to the people around me. I can be aware of what is going on with them. This person is suffering. Let me have compassion. How can I help them? Can I take you to the doctor? Can I get you a cup of tea? Or a cup of coffee if you want to talk to me? Or can I help you out? Can I give you a hug at the very least to make you feel a bit better? You are more aware, immediate. You are in the present. You know what is going on. That is really all mindfulness is. If you have a very thinking mind, you're not really in the present because that thought process is not really presence. It's just kind of proliferating. It's usually about all kind of stuff, but not what is happening here and now. So the ideal mindfulness is a peaceful mind. We are fully aware of what is happening now. That is the full mindfulness. So anyway, and of course as you practice the path, that mindfulness becomes stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, etc., etc. Okay, everyone. So very nice to see you all again this evening. And take care. Have a good day ahead, a week ahead, whatever it is. And hopefully we'll see you again soon. Let's pay respect to Buddha Dhamma Sangha at the very end.